Hey guys, how's it going? It's Dilmer again and welcome back to my channel. So in this new training, I'm going to go through creating a minimalistic UI. I'm going to show you basically how to use the canvas, how we can lay things out, and create a UI that is simple enough so that we can start, having a UI in our games. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm actually going to create a new canvas. So I'm going to right click on the hierarchy and then go into the UI option and then click on canvas. So once you do that, it's actually going to create a canvas and you'll see how it gets rendered on the screen. So I'm actually using the 2D mode, so you're welcome to use 3D or 2D. So I'm going to focus on UI, so I'm just going to do it in 2D. The other thing that I did, I created this project and I'm going to be posting this project in GitHub. So don't worry about, getting up to date with what I'm doing because I'm going to be providing that to you. And also I'm using the iOS version. So once you set your platform to iOS, you're gonna have all these different options. I'm gonna create a UI that works for the iPhone XS, and I'm gonna do it in portrait mode. So just so that you keep that in mind. So the other thing that I'm gonna do is as soon as I created a canvas, it already automatically created all these components for me. It creates a canvas, it creates a canvas scaler, and then a graphics raycaster. I'm not going to worry about those right now. I just want you to know that those were created. And the other thing that I did is I created an art folder with a UI image in it. So I'm using Photoshop, but you're welcome to use any type of tool, graphics tool that you like. So what I'm gonna have you do is, if you use Photoshop or you use something else, make sure that you create a canvas an image that is the size of 1125 by 2436. So 1125 width and then 2436 on my height. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to basically make sure that that matches the device that I'm targeting. So I'm going to do different things. I'm going to create buttons. We're going to be creating a progress bar. So I'm going to start with creating a very simple progress bar. And let's actually do that. So I'm going to use my rectangle option in here. And we're going to just create a rectangle. And for this rectangle, I don't want to have any filling. So I'm just going to remove the fill. And I want the stroke to be something like that. I think maybe a lighter gray, and you should end up with something like this. And I also have a folder called UI and a background. The background is so that I can see clearly what I'm creating. So this one is going to be border missing an R. There we go. And then I'm going to clone it and I'm going to do the filler, which is going to be what's inside, and go back to my rectangle option. And then we can probably do, let's just do a darker color, or maybe actually let's just do a white. Let's do a white so it's simpler to see. So what I'm gonna end up with is I want to be, have a progress bar that scales horizontally, and then I also gonna add a number inside. But we're gonna do that in Unity. So, and then I'm just gonna move these down. So this is gonna be my border. On the filler though, I don't want to have a stroke, so I'm gonna remove the stroke. Perfect. Excellent. So the other thing that I want to do is I want to create a few buttons for my UI. So I'm just going to do some simple buttons. So I'm going to do the same color. And so this one, we're going to create a new layer. And I'm going to call this one progress bar. The next one is just going to be buttons. Or we can just say button for now until we get another one. And since I already have a shape that I can use, I can actually just copy. We can actually just clone the border, drop it into the button, and I'm just gonna call it button. This is gonna be very, very simple. And let's go into a rectangle. I do want to add a white background. Excellent. And we can do, our buttons are gonna be something like that. And right about there. And I don't really like the thick border. So let's go and do one. And perfect. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the border on the progress bar is way too thick as well. I'm just gonna do 1 as well. Actually 1 is too low. Let's do a 2. Okay, perfect. I like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the button. I'm gonna add a 2. Let's do 2px. In the radius, I like the radius. That's completely fine. So let me just resize this one just a tiny bit more. And then the other thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add an overlay. The overlay, it's gonna be basically an icon that we're gonna identify for this button. I want to have something simple, so we can do, I'm actually gonna do custom shape tool. And then in the custom shape tool, I should have, we actually just do all, no animals, actually all. And then yes, I want to paint every single shape. And I have different options in here that we can use. So I use this quite a bit for prototyping. So we can do maybe that one. And something like that will work. And then that shape is gonna be, I want it to be black. And I don't want to, actually don't want any stroke. Excellent. And we can just put it in place. And I want this to be my play button. So we can do something like that. Perfect. And let's actually make it a little bit small. Excellent. And I'm actually going to change. So this overlay is actually going to become play, so we can remove that overlay. And we can just leave that icon. On this one, I don't like how it looks. And if you don't know how I work, I normally go back and forth until I'm happy with something. So I might do that in this lesson too, where I'm gonna be going back and forth and tweaking it. And I think in development is like that, where you're gonna find out that you have to do this many times until you get it just right, or you like what you're creating. So I think that's perfect. Then the other thing that we can do is we can add maybe another button. We can add so this is gonna be the play button. This one is gonna be probably, we can do settings. And we can move settings to here. Excellent. And on this one, I'm going to do another shape. And let's see if we have a shape for something that resembles settings or tools. We have this one right here that might work. And let me see. I think this one should work just fine for our demonstration purposes. So let's select that, and I'm going to go here, and the background on this one, I'm also gonna make it the same. Let me actually do it one more time, so that I have it sized just like the other, right about there. And then the color for this one, it's gonna be the same that we did on the other one, something like that. And let me select the button, the shape. There we go. Excellent. I'm actually gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna double click it to change the entire shape. So we can do, let's start overlay. Perfect. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna convert this to rasterize layer, because I want to convert the whole thing, add an overlay for the whole thing. And I think that works. And this one is gonna be just like that other one, so I'm just gonna use my color picker. Excellent. And perfect. And just resize it just a tiny bit more. Perfect. I am happy with that. Then on these buttons, let's see, I think I'm gonna remove the border. So I'm gonna do 0px on all of that. So we can go to the properties, and then the same thing on this one. I want it to be minimalistic, so I like it when we have sharp edges. Excellent. On the progress bar, I'm gonna leave it like that. I do like a little bit of a round edge. This one, it's fine. Let me resize this shape just a little bit. Okay, excellent. This one looks good, and this one is gonna be settings, and we're gonna call it settings button. Excellent. And okay, so I got my progress bar, I got my different buttons. So now what do I do to actually export it? So all I gotta do is I'm gonna just hit save, and I already saved this image in the same location where my project is. So if I go into Unity and I go into the R folder, so all I did was save it in this location, and it already recognizes it as a PSD. So all I have to do is go into texture type, because if I only had one sprite, like only one image inside, meaning that I didn't have multiple buttons, then you could do a single image. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this to a Sprite 2D UI, and then instead of using a single, I'm gonna do a multiple. Then the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the Sprite Editor, and it's gonna say, yeah, you haven't applied import settings, and I know that, so I gotta hit apply. And now it's gonna bring me into the Sprite Editor. And this editor is really, really cool because you can actually go here, and it's smart enough to know that it needs to basically create rectangles in areas where I need to slice. So if I leave it in automatic and leave everything as it is and hit slice, it's gonna actually do everything for me. So if I go here, now it has a surrounding area, another surrounding area with a rectangle, and you can see that it automatically created sprites with positions, with border, and all of that automatically. I could have gone in and actually select an area and then create a sprite from that area, but I'm leaving basically the automated process do it for me, so I don't have to worry about that. Then once you do that, you hit apply, and Unity is going to create a sprite for each one of those. So how do you know that it will? Because now you have this little arrow that determines that it actually created 4 different images for me, which is great. So now I have my sprites, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into sync mode, and we're going to focus in a couple areas here. So I'm just going to add a play button in the middle, and then we're going to add a progress bar somewhere in the canvas. So I'm going to start with some of the buttons. So we're going to go and right click on the canvas, and then we can just do a button for the first one. And there's our button, but we don't want it to look like that because we have a custom one. So if you notice, it has different components. On the image component, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to associate it with my play button, and it looks really bad, and I'll show you why. The other thing that this did automatically for me, it created a text component, so I don't need a text component for my minimalistic button, so I'm going to delete it. And it still doesn't look right, and I could actually go in and resize it manually if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I want the system to determine the native size. So if you select the button and go into the image and then click on the set native size, it's actually going to resize it exactly how I have it in Photoshop. So you can go back and look at that size and back into Unity, and you'll see that they are exactly the same size. So perfect. The other thing to consider here and to learn is that it created a Rect Transform on this component. So this is how Unity in the UI world, it knows the position of X, the position of Y, Z, the width and the height. I never mess with the scaling here because it actually creates a lot of problems for me. Anytime that you're resizing a UI component, make sure that you're using the width and the height, and that's going to make it look a lot better. The other thing that is very important for, especially if you're targeting multiple platforms, is that you need to learn how to use these anchors. So with this anchor, if I have the anchor set in the center, what it's going to do is going to use basically the pivot of the canvas to determine where that location is. So if I do 0, 0, this is what it's going to do, and it's going to put it at 0 position. If I do, let's say, the top left, and I do 0, 0, it's going to put it at the top left of that. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to do it in the center, just like we had it. And I'll just offset it a little bit so that we have our settings on the left and then the play on the right. So I'm just going to do We can just do, actually let's just keep it on the center and then we'll do our settings on the bottom. So now that I have that created, I really don't have to do anything else. I can actually go into game and then look at my button. So the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this. And this one is going to be for my settings. Drag and drop the UI_2. And in fact, we can do save native size, even though it's already set to that. And we can put it right on the bottom. And this one is going to be -280. We can do it, something like that. And I think I'm going to leave everything the same. So on this one, I'm just going to call it play button. On the settings, I'm going to call it settings button. Or you can just do setting button. That's perfect. And okay, so I have my play, I have my settings. So if I hit play and just let it compile the game, now I have my buttons that, but right now it's not really doing much for us because the highlighted color, it's like really hard to see. Actually, you can see it a little bit, but if we change let's say that we change it to maybe a red color so that you can kind of see that it's actually getting activated. So we can use, I'm just going to use a little different color palette. We can just do gray. And I'm going to copy the hexadecimal value so that we can apply it to both. So I'll do the same thing with play and settings. Go into press, color, and then paste the hexadecimal value. Now when I hit play, it's going to do exactly the same thing on the press transition. So I can press that one, press this one, and it's all working. So you can also, so if you look at what I'm doing here, this is the color that it's going to show by default. So I could actually make it, if I wanted to make it red, I can make it red by default. And then when I press it, it's going to change to the dark gray. So there's different settings that you can use. So they have, normal color, and then highlighted color, press color, and then when the button is disabled, it's going to show that color. So I'm going to leave it as it is for what we have. So the next thing that I want to show you is the progress bar. So let's create a progress bar. And this is going to be a custom progress bar that I'm going to create. So I'm going to create an empty game object, and we're going to leave it at the center just like it did. We're going to call this one progress bar. So a progress bar has multiple components, and normally it has, so in my case, I'm going to have a border, and I'm also going to have another game object, and this is going to be my filler. The filler is going to be the area that is going to actually extend as the percentage is going to extend. And then, so my border is going to be the last one, and then right before that, we're going to do a UI component, and we're going to do a text. This one is going to be the progress, or we can actually just call it percentage. And then we'll put that right at the top. Excellent. So right now we can't see anything because we haven't really assigned anything to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the progress bar up a little bit, and then I'm going to focus on that area. So for the border, I want to use the border that I created, but I don't have anything assigned to it because I started with an empty game object. So I'm going to add a new component, and we're going to call this one image. And you can see that I have an image already created. And then let's just drag and drop the border into our image, and then save native size. And you can see that it's resizing automatically for us, which is great. Then on the filler, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create an image, and we're going to drag and drop our filler. And we're going to do the same thing, set native size. Excellent. And then now the percentage. So if you notice the percentage right now, we can't really see it because we need to put it at the very bottom. So it is in front of everything. And then for now, I'm just going to say that this is set to 0%. And then I'm going to set the text to something bigger, maybe 40. We can't really see it because we need to resize that area. And that's actually changing the width like I showed you before. And we're gonna use the entire area. And then I'm going to change I'm gonna center it, and then center it vertically as well. So I'm doing it in both ways, vertically and horizontally. Excellent. So we have that set. We have our border set, and then But the one problem that I have right now, it's that the actual game object, it's not sized correctly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna size it all the way, extend it a little bit, and right about there should be fine. I like to use numbers that are right at 0, so we can just do 490 and then 100. I think that's excellent and perfect. So now I'm gonna go back to 0, 0, and I'm just gonna move my progress bar maybe on the top. It's fine. So that's cool, but right now it doesn't really do anything. There's really no progress, to be honest. So how can we control the progress bar and the percentage? So that's what I'm actually going to add some scripts. So we're going to go into Assets, Create. I'm going to create a new folder. And then we're going to call it Scripts. And I'm going to start with a new script. This script is just going to be called Progress Bar. Excellent. And I'm going to double click on my progress bar to open Visual Studio Code. Excellent. And I need a couple of components. So if you remember, we added a filler, a border, and a percentage. So the other thing that I got to do before I keep going is I got to add that as a component. So we can just say progress bar. Excellent. And then I'm going to need a couple of variables. So I'm going to say private, and I'm going to need my image. And this is going to be my filler. I also need the percentage, so it's going to be a text, and then this is going to be the percentage. And I need to bring in a namespace, which is going to be Unity Engine.ui. And these ones, I want to serialize them so that I can basically associate them through the inspector. Excellent. And we can go, and then we need one more thing. So we're going to need I want to track the percentage. So I'm going to track that by using a float. And we can just say percentage value. And I'm also going to do a serializable field. In this case, I'm actually going to allow from 0 to 100 and comma. So this is going to add a slider for us, which is really cool. And we're going to have it automatically start at 0. And let's go back into Unity. And now you can see that I have a couple of different attributes. So my filler value, it's going to be that one. And then my percentage is going to be this guy. And I also have a little slider, which is really great, but I can't really see it changing. So the other thing that I'm going to do is if I go to the filler and you look at the image type, I can actually change the image type on the filler to be fill. And it's really, really awesome because now that I did that, I can actually control some things. So I could change the fill method to be, in our case, it's going to be horizontal. And I can tell it what the origin is. If I wanted to maybe, go from one side to another, I could do that. I'm going to start on the left. And the filler amount is going to be 0, and then it's going to extend all the way up to 1, so which is perfect. Excellent. So the next thing that I'm going to do, so I'm going to leave it as 0, and everything else can stay the same. Then let's go back into Visual Studio, and I'm going to do one more thing. So if we look at the update method, so I'm going to do filler that fill amount equal, let's say 100, for instance. Actually 1, because it goes from 0 to 1. So if we go back into Unity and we hit play, we can see that it's going to, if everything works, and I'm gonna zoom out. Looks like we're controlling the fill amount, which in our case was set to a 1 because I set it to 1 in here. So if I wanted to control that, I would need to do something like this where I'm associating this. So I'm actually going to go, let's actually do 1.0 so that we have basically the same numbers in the fill amount. And then I'm going to change this value here. And I'm going to say filler amount equal percentage value. And I'm starting at 0, so that's great. Let's go back into Unity. And let's actually hit play to stop the game from playing, and hit play one more time. And remember that I am starting at 0, So I don't have anything, I don't have basically a value associated. So now I can do this, and I can actually control the percentage of the progress bar, but the value is actually not changing. So how do we accomplish that? We need to add a little bit more code to do that. So the other thing that I need to do is I gotta do %text, and we can use a string interpolation here, which .NET introduced recently, where you can do a $, and you can actually use curly braces to put the values in. So now I need to know the percentage. So I know that I'm gonna need the percent symbol on it, and now I can do some math in here to calculate it. So what I'm gonna do is basically that's gonna be my percent value, and I need to multiply that by 100 if I want to do a percentage. Now we can go back into Unity, hit play, and see what happens. Now if I go into my scene view just to look at it, I can see that it's changing from 0% all the way up to 100%. Excellent. So another thing that we can do is we can actually modify this so that it automatically increments. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to add a new method that is going to increment it with time. So we can do an IEnumerator, and we can call this one increment progress bar, and let's actually make this one private. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to check to make sure that the percentage value is less than or equal to 1.0, which is actually going to be our max. And I want to return wait 4 seconds after every second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for a second, and then increment the percentage, and then do it until I reach 1.0. So the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this piece, paste it in here, and I'm going to increment the percentage value. So we can do plus or equal to, and we can do 1.0 if we wanted to, or we can actually go a smaller number so we can see more before it actually finishes. Excellent. So what I'm doing is basically a while loop, checking to make sure that I haven't reached the max. If I haven't reached the max, I'm going to increment the percentage value to 0.5 float, and then I'm going to add the basically associate that value with the fill amount, and then increment the percentage. And then I'll wait, for every second I'll do that. So in the start method, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a start core routine, and then we're going to call our method, and we don't need the update method anymore because that's going to happen just when the game starts. So now if we go back into Unity, and then I'm actually going to split it so that we can see everything, and then let the application compile. Excellent. And let's move up, and so we can focus on these two areas. So if we hit play, the start code routine should execute, and we can see that it's executing. Let's actually do it one more time, but I think it's executing way too fast. So let's do 0.1, and then we'll do these maybe every 2 seconds so we can see more of it. I'm gonna hit play, and let it compile and run, and now we can see that our progress bar is incrementing every 2 seconds, and the percentage is also getting incremented. Excellent. So just to recap, we created a progress bar class, a mono behavior, and we have an image filler that basically is associated with the filler that fills the background. Then we added a text percentage to represent the text on the screen, and we have a value that we use to actually do the computation on the percentage. So that's everything that I wanted to show you guys. If you guys have any questions about anything that I mentioned, let me know through the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video.